Welcome to Series 2 of the ESG podcast. This series will focus on those who are in the throes of the everyday, the CEOs, founders and investors who are looking at the future and how best to navigate the new and changing landscape of business and its impact on all stakeholders. Good governance comes from leadership, strategy and diversity. ESG, the environmental social governance, or as I like to call it, GSE, comes from the social and the environmental, and it all stems from the practice of good governance from board of directors. I'm Rashmi Dubé, litigation partner and ESG advisor at gunnercooke. And today's ESG podcast, we have the absolute privilege of interviewing Sandy Damm, who is the global CEO of Bull Products. Welcome to the Series 2 of the ESG podcast. This series will be focused on those that are in the throes of the everyday, the CEOs, the founders and the investors who are looking at the future and how best to navigate the new changing landscape of business and its impact on all stakeholders. Today's guest is Sandy Damm. Sandy is not new to the scale-up of businesses and his specialism in the privately owned business. Over the last decade alone, he has redesigned the OME strategy of building automation division from a privately owned low voltage equipment to manufacturer, built up new export teams internationally, multi-channel networks, developed and launched new product platforms, delivered the first industry Brexit plan involving the full supply chain, and more recently, with Bull, has created the Green Bull division, who works with reworks used equipment and helps customers meet their ESG goals. Sandy can be found on LinkedIn by searching Sandy Damm at Bull's product. Sandy, welcome to the gunnercooke and ESG podcast.
Hello, Rashmi. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, Sandy, perhaps you can introduce Bull Products a little more so our listeners can have an understanding of what their offering is, please.
Yeah. Bull Product is a privately owned, family-owned, 18 years old business who has been very active and has made his name in the construction sector. So Bull Products provides fire safety equipment for construction site, securing the health and safety of every site, saving lives. This goes with first aid, fire extinguishers, fire alarm, which is the biggest part of the range, and all this includes service.
So if we use those concepts, what actually, I mean, you can imagine the directors sitting around the board. How do we even think about ESG and stakeholder engagement, which leads you to the creation of the Green Bull and its division?
Yeah, the entire world is banging on how bad the automotive industry is and how much pollution the automotive industry brings. Well, the construction sector is maybe not as bad, but not much better. I think the latest survey who came out, I read the other day, was 18% of the pollution in the UK, at least, is coming from construction. And that's all sort of things. Field can be smoke, exhaust, just dust, nasty environment. I think construction companies, more and more, the larger one at least, the tier 1 ones who are stock listed, they're all interested now in having a ESG strategy and how to make it a bit greener. And we as a business is just something we want to provide.
Which is helping actually not just your business, but helps the companies that you deal with, your customers, help meet their ESG goals as well.
We do indeed. Yeah, we do indeed. I can come later on it. The end goal is we are the first one to do it in the industry. We have made all sorts of calculations, or we can produce carbon footprint credit as an incentive for our customers. So I have no doubt that most of the industry will follow us because it is a good idea. It goes in the direction of ESG, and the younger generation who are coming in want to be part of this. My executive team, on the teams we have on board, they all want to be a contribution to make the industry a bit greener. Hence, we have created the Green Bull.
Is there anything you can talk about a little bit more? I know you for some of our listeners who may be watching this, there'll be some visual demographics to help them understand exactly the level of pollution, because we talk about 80% of the pollution in the construction, but actually
18.
18, 1/8. Yeah, 1/8. But when we talk about that on a larger scale, that's a really high percentage. And actually construction impacts not just the environment, but the societies around it, because it's the people, and it's a global issue. It's not just in the UK.
No, it's a survey. It came from the UK. It's a surveyor association. But no, yeah, it is a global problem wherever you have construction, and it affects primarily the people who work on site because they're directly exposed to it, and expose their lives to it, but also people just around and everything going up.
So many people who are thinking about what you're doing and what you're presenting in terms of the Green Bull, does it actually make you more competitive in the market, do you think?
Originally, the idea was that the Green Bull could, how should I say? Yeah, we could be more competitive. We could sell for below the price of new equipment. And this was the original strategy, and in the boardroom, it was the original strategy. But then we had a couple of customers who, when we started opening the Green Bulls, asked me, okay, how much more are you going to charge me for selling me a green product? So it was very tempting to say, well, actually, it's going to cost you 20% more to buy refurbished articles than to buy a new one. But at the moment, we set it to a very similar price. Yeah, it's very similar.
Okay, that's great. Would you like to share your presentation with us at this moment?
I would like to, yeah. Just share it. So just as a source of what I was saying, the 18%, it's coming from the Chartered Institute of Environmental Health. And yeah, I was shocked myself with a big number.
It is really a huge number,
yeah.
Because and it's actually 18% of the UK's large particle pollution. So that's just a huge number that really needs to be addressed in the construction industry. And it's great to see leadership coming from Bull and your leadership as a CEO of trying to bring that change forward.
Yeah. I said, normally good ideas are always copied. So I'm under no illusions that our friends and colleagues from other businesses are going to follow us on that gap. But eventually it's going to make the world a better place. And that's all what matters.
Yeah, that's good. I like it.
So the number looks high, but when you look in details about how things going on in construction sites, yeah, we can see how nasty it can be for people directly involved.
Yeah, so those that are just listening, the visual demographics here is you can imagine cranes when they're digging and the amount of pollution that comes up from concrete and tar alone, or just from the black smoke that we often see in the fumes to operate the machinery alone. In and around the environment in which these machineries are working. So if it's building new houses, if it's reconstructing roads, demolition, for example, it's all part of the construction industry.
Yeah. So in the construction industry, over the last decades, the health and safety issues have been much more drastic. And so companies know they have to have fire equipment, fire safety, first aid. Everything has to be around by the book. So many companies have it. They have it on site because they need it. But most of the time, in 95% of the time, fortunately, this equipment is never used. These are alarms, these extinguishers. So what people accept is just when the site is finished after 6, 12, 18 months, it just goes to the bin. Because when you see that, to the articles you see which are coming back from the field, so it's rusty, damaged. You see a unit which is completely covered in by concrete, In general, these equipments are just accepted to stay. It goes straight to the bin, and that's just more pollution to have equipment going to the bin who has never been used.
So visually, for any of those that are just listening, if you have a new piece of equipment, it is all shiny new and red because it's belonging to the fire Department of Health and Safety, and the one that comes back from the construction site is just particularly dirty, grey. You can't even read any of the writing. It's just not really usable, and it's simply thrown into a skip without any thought.
It's been done. Companies accept it's going to cost 50, 100, 150,000, which is just a loss in the project. On which we've been in further. For the next project, we buy it new and we start again.
So essentially, a company is forking out anything between 100 and 150,000 pounds for the UK for a moment, and you substitute that for any other currency that you'd like. And then all you're doing is going to the cash point, withdrawing that money for a product, and then simply maybe 12 to 18 months later, throwing it in the bin.
It's bin, yeah.
That's it. So, I mean, that's just your bottom line. A waste of expense, really, isn't it? Or it's not a waste because it has an interim value. Let's be clear. It does have a health and safety interim value to it, but that interim value is very short term. And so what Green Bull are trying to do is create a longer term value.
That's it. Yeah. So in that process, that's what Bull has launched. I think it was 8 years ago. It was far before my time. So it was built up by the family. The concept of Fire 360. So I just got to keep it very short. Basically, when a customer has a project, he calls Bull and says, that's the site, 2,000 plans. So we Bull design the site, say for that site, you need that number of extinguishers, that number of fire alarms, that's where they have to be. We sell the equipment. So the equipment belongs to the customer, to the construction company. We service it, so we make sure everything is compliant. During the length of the project, we do all the maintenance on secure, the maintenance. When the project is finished, whilst most of the time it went to the bin, we decommission the site, we take all the products back, we store it in a warehouse, we do a bit of cleaning, and it goes straight in the next project when the customer needs them again.
So do they just hire it from you?
No, well, we do offer hire, but since our customers are not too bad about making maths, they realize that actually it's cheaper to buy. So they buy it as an asset, and we do an asset management of what is in the inventory, what belongs to our customers. Yeah.
Brilliant. And so from their perspective, they're also meeting their ESG targets.
Not really. That's something which is too difficult to measure. What they do, they save the 50 or 150,000, which doesn't go to the bin, because we make sure they can use it again on the next side. So that's a financial saving.
Oh, so what you're doing is they're buying the asset, you're managing the asset for them, and you're storing the asset, making sure it's in workable condition, and when they need the next site, they come back and reuse it. So the bottom line is actually they're getting more on their return of the outlay.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, exactly. So that's what led us last year to open the Green Bull. So what is a Green Bull? The Green Bull originally was only a project and an experimentation. An experimentation where we had a bit of a capex. We invested a bit in paint station, powder, laser cleaning, a bit of a compressor. Was the end of the world. It was just worth the investment. So the product were eligible to be treated by the Green Bull are extinguishers, our fire alarms, that's a lot of electronics on our trolleys. So when it goes in the Green Bull, on the left side, you see pictures of units who are coming back from the field. So you see them rusty, damaged, demolished. The wheels, some of the wheels can go off. So we clean, we strip down, we clean, we paint. It's ready to go back on the market. And on the right side, you see a product which has been completely refurbished.
And so where are you getting the equipment that's been on construction, are these being just handed over to you from companies?
Yeah. When we in Finance 360, as you have seen earlier, when we could decommission it, we just take it back to our headquarters.
So this is products they purchased out again,
Yes.
outright.
Yes.
So and then again, is it their asset? Is it the same?
It can be the asset. It can be the asset, or if they really don't want it anymore, we do some buybacks.
Okay.
But it would be it's a more major line. It is asset. Yeah, it's asset which we do refurbish.
Okay, and then they can use it whenever they want again.
Yeah, we store it for them, and for the next projects they contact us, and we just start the cycle of the Finance 360 again. Yes.
Okay, as opposed to previously where they would just dispose of it.
Which yeah, they wouldn't even come back to us. They would go to the bin, to the skip straight away on the site. Yeah.
Okay, so you're essentially helping the environment here.
Yeah.
And helping the company's bottom line.
So yeah, here it's especially its bottom line, yeah, and that's why we try to make it to have a better impact on the environment. And that's why we start the Green Bull. So we do the same with extinguishers. That's a bit easier, you know. It's a cleaning, laser cleaning, inside, outside, repaint, refill, and it goes back on site with a 5-year warranty.
Okay.
Same for the alarms. Again, here we see on the left side, it's covered by concrete. It's funny enough, I was told that when that unit came back, it was completely destroyed by the concrete, but inside the electronic was still working. So we could reuse the electronic inside in a new housing for new.
Brilliant. Yeah, and so it's just completely refurbished.
That's a logo we use. All our equipment, when you see it on site, it has that logo, the Green Bull. I have been reused. Onto that, that's a marketing tool we use just to show, look, actually, you have contributed to make the world a better place, a safer place.
Which is good for the environment and like I said, for the business as well. But it also, hopefully, the businesses that are engaging with this are hopefully then also reconsidering their position from a board's perspective and the directors of what else they can do in terms of the environment and social. Where else can they make these small changes that might have a greater impact?
Yeah. So
that's great.
Where we did catch attention with that was obviously saving on the bottom line or reusing equipment. Where we made a bigger impact is when we started. It was a massive job of carbon calculation where we have analyzed. We subcontracted to an independent company to analyze the carbon footprint of each of our products.
Okay.
And based on this, we could compare to the carbon footprint it would have between importing them into the UK over the water for 6 weeks and having them made. Most of extinguishers are manufactured in China. 95% of the production is in China.
Okay.
And we compared it to the impact it has if we just take it back, we refurbish it, and we back on the market, which led us to our Green Bull tree savings, where you can see the difference between a water fire extinguisher 9 liter, when it comes new, costs 3.4 trees. If it's refurbished by the Green Bull, it goes back to the market, it costs only 2.8. So we save 0.7 trees. We use trees, just think it's a nice unit. The
trees make a perfect sense because it is part of the environment and it's something that people can relate to. But I mean, this is huge. If you look at the fire extinguisher trolley alone, that's 1.6 trees. That's just over 1.5 trees.
Yeah.
And it just makes a massive impact. And again, this is something that isn't just a UK-based type product. This could be implemented globally, you know, where you can easily sort of, work out a license agreement where you would set it all up with somebody. Obviously, you will come to gunnercooke to help with the legals on that.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. Thank you very much.
But from a environmental social governance perspective, this is absolutely critical data, and that's one of the things I would say to any businesses who are considering making changes. And if they did what you did, Sandy, in Bulls, and what you did and what you said was you experimented initially, And that's, I think, critical for any listener is you have to experiment nowadays. You have to change. You have to keep an eye on the market. And anybody who's ever read Who's Moved My Cheese will understand that.
Yeah.
You have to keep looking at things. And so the only way you can adapt and change is by saying, okay, shall we take the Sandy Damm approach and experiment, right? And if you experiment, look what you have created. It's amazing.
But I was very fortunate. But the capex is not that much. I think it was the tier one was 35,000 something. But I still needed the board on shareholders who were ready to support the initiative and say, okay, let's give it a go, because I no guarantee it was no benchmark to anything else because nobody else was doing it. So I was very fortunate. We've been very fortunate to have a board of directors who said, look, simply try it. If it fails, it fails, but at least let's give it a go, because it sounds to be a good idea.
And I think one of the things board of directors need to understand is what you said. Yes, it sounds like a good idea, but it's also understanding that by practicing good governance, which is here, one of the stakeholders is the environment. The other stakeholder is actually your customer. By practicing that, you actually do. I mean, this is one of the questions that we're going to come on to. We might as well ask it now. But a lot of people a lot of businesses are always scared that by embarking on an environmental social governance road, that they will affect their bottom line.
Yeah. And actually, it doesn't work like this. It doesn't work like this at all. If you do it right, and you can be entrepreneurs. It doesn't mean you should make a bit of maths before on study all the options on the impact it has. But it did attract more customers because they like what you're doing. The uplift we have seen as well, which I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting to have that much internally, is by our staff saying, oh, actually, we are sustainable. We want to be sustainable. What else could we do to be sustainable? TISTAL initiatives, we go paperless, and it's all sort of things which have created a bit of a dynamic internally. And when we communicate outside, we do recruit a lot. We are on an aggressive recruitment part since we are growing very fast. And people join us say, actually, I want to be part of you because I can see what you do. I want to be part of that. I want to be part of making the world cleaner, safer, better.
And this is just music to my ears, Sandy, because I've been drumming the drum on this for so long that I keep saying you will not appreciate, you don't know the hidden benefits. And like you've just said, one of the hidden benefits is actually recruitment has increased because people want to work for that type of company, because you're genuine in your brand, you're genuine in your ethics of what you are doing. The intake internally, the culture shift. So it is, when you said the staff got more engaged, actually that would have created a culture shift within the business, which then attracts not just the right people for the new people recruitment, but what you said with new clients. The unexpected happens when you actually put a little bit time, a little bit effort, and the best way you've said to do it is just to experiment, but go in that experiment wholeheartedly as if it's going to be successful. And then you will see how much you can scale from that, which is just absolutely great news. So does it impact the bottom line? Like anything, it's a business. You have to take a risk. You took a risk when the business started. You need to adapt. You have to take a risk. And we shouldn't forget that risk is never just negative. It can be positive. It's just manageable. And, your first option in the business that you do is to do nothing. But let's face it, if you do nothing, you're not going to survive very long.
No.
The pandemic proved that.
Yeah.
So,
Precisely,
that's amazing. So
the last point, the cherry on that is when we have a customer who orders from the Green Bull, he gets a certificate about how many trees he has saved per product line.
Oh, wow.
So now all suddenly, instead of talking to procurement managers or supply chain managers or purchasing managers, we start talking to sustainability managers who say, oh, actually, Can you tell me more about the Green Bull? It just changed the dynamic on the perspective, and it is. That's why I'm under no illusion we will be standing alone doing this. I know everyone is going to follow us on copy it, but again, it doesn't really matter.
No, because it's good for the environment. But
yeah.
Like I said, if it's a package that you can create and license out and help people with it, why not? It'd be great for you to be able to do that. But, I mean, going from construction industry where there's 18% pollution in the UK, where you have taken over the equipment that is used on construction site as an asset sometimes for your clients, where they retain that asset. Essentially, you're able to put that asset back into the field. And while you're doing that, you are impacting the environment, attracting new businesses, created enormous value within the culture of your company. So you're again hitting the inclusion aspect of things, attracting new type of recruits. But at the bottom line is that you are helping your customers get better value of their bottom line, create better value within the environment, and most importantly, as we all know, we love our little pieces of paper of certificates to show what we have done.
Yeah, as a reward. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your guest appearance here today, Sandy. I always like to ask my guests to impart a piece of wisdom that our listeners can take away. What would you say to our listeners today?
I say, when you have an idea like this, experiment. Just try it out. It doesn't have to expose drastically. It doesn't have to be a complete change of direction in the strategy. Just try something in a corner. If it doesn't work, you fold it after a year or 6 months if you have a little patience. But at least give it a go. Experiment.
Fantastic. I think that is great advice. And for all our listeners, I always ask, if I have a guest, what is their favorite book or musician that they would like to share with us today?
So here's a book which I like very much. I just read it. It's from Adam Coffey, the Private Equity Playbook. So we are in the topic today.
Yeah.
I think it's a great insight for anyone who doesn't really know how private equity work, on how it's a great introduction to private equity.
That's brilliant. I would strongly recommend. I haven't read that one, so I'm definitely going to pick that one up. Thank you so much for that recommendation. I really appreciate it.
I would recommend the second one, which is my own.
Yeah.
Which is for it's called SME globalization, and it is how SMEs can just thrive on the international stage by experimenting, going outside the comfort zone, trying things, on building a culture up, which could be ESG or sustainability culture.
Fantastic. I mean, that really goes to the heart of what you've said today about experiment. So again, listeners, it seems to be a book that I would say go out and get. Thank you so much, Sandy, for your time today. I'm Rashmi Dubé, litigation partner and ESG advisor at gunnercooke, and you've been listening to the ESG podcast. Contact me, rashmi.dubé@gunnercooke.com, or on LinkedIn, X, and Instagram, where my handles are my name. And if you'd like to understand anything more about how your directors and your board can improve company performance from the practice of good governance, I'm here to help. Thanks for listening. We look forward to our next episode shortly. Thanks for listening. I've been Rashmi Dubé, litigation and ESG partner with gunnercooke, and you've been listening to the ESG podcast. Contact me at rashmi.dubé@gunnercooke.com, link in with me, or follow me on X and Instagram. On X is @Rashmi Dubé, and my handle is rashmi.dubé on Instagram. If you would like to understand the path you are taking as a director or the company on how to improve company performance from the practice of good governance and avoid litigation, or at least reduce the risk, drop me a note. Thanks for listening to the ESG podcast with Gunner Cook. See you next time.